Duha. Bismillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sallallahu alayka ya Sayyidi wa ya Mawlaya ya Rasulallah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. Ya rahmatallahi al-wasi'ah wa ya baba najatil ummah. يا غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء تبتم وتابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم سيدي فيا ليتنا يا ليتنا يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق ونور أرش أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا الممجد بشير المصدق المصطفى الأمجد محمود الأحمد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتاب الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله عنده علم الساعة وينزل الغيث ويعلم ما في الأرحام وما تدري نفس ماذا تكسب غدا وما تدري نفس بأي أرض تموت صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. My respected and beloved scholars, my respected Maulana, elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin in the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, the most beneficent, the most merciful, Malik al-Muluk, the master of all masters, Shahinshah, the king of kings. For truly there is no one who is worthy of the worship, or no other is worthy of the worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the best are His names, Allahu la ilaha illahu walahul asma'ul husna. That none has a right to be worshipped except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and His are the best of names. And none is a partner of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this kingdom, and there is no son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He does not beget, nor is He begotten. And you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this very clear within the 17th chapter with the last verse, when He says, وَقُلِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي لَمْ يَتَّخِذْ وَلَدًا وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ شَرِيكٌ فِي الْمُلْكِ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلِيٌّ مِّنَ الذُّلِّ وَكَبِّرْهُ تَكْبِيرًا. صلوات على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajhum. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks and continues to speak to insan in the Holy Quran and makes it evident. Understand who I am as the creator and understand who you are as the creation. Even in Surah Al-Qaf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ. Understand that we insan were close to you. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. You know, we are closer to you than your jugular vein. وَالْأَوَّلُ وَالْآخِرُ وَالظَّاهِرُ وَالْبَاطِنُ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first, the last. He is the most high and He is near to you. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. You see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, insan, understand, we're close to you. We understand who you are. وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. And we know exactly what it is that you hear, O insan. We were the ones who created you. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Waqi'ah continues and He says, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ. That surely we are close to insan, but he doesn't see. And many a times insan, we have this tendency that when we don't see something, when we can't see something or to have evidence of something through our sight, we tend to disbelieve in it. Hence you have this idea that if I can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some people come forth and they say, what? Since I can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hence I will stop believing in Him. But you see, there's a very big flaw here, because it's our source. Even though we may not be able to physically see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's our source that is still good. That when you look at Ahkam al-Khamsa, the five, we have wajib, halal, makruh, mubah, and haram. They say that the two most important are what? The two most important are wajib and haram. And out of those two, which is the most important? And they say what? That the most important is haram. You ask the question, why is it that haram falls under this category? Why is haram the one that you look after the most? It's because when you're able to stay away from haram, when you're able to stay away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden, your source is good. Hence, if you're able to stay away from that haram, if you're able to stay away from that indecency, because your source is good, you will continue and start on a path towards good. That if my creation is good, that if my nafs and my soul is good, hence if I'm able to eliminate haram, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden, I will go towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you continue in this idea, and even what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in our fitrah, that when you want to understand and go towards your Lord, I've created in such a way a perfect system that you don't need the scientific tools of today to understand my creation, to understand the Creator. Even Sayyid Mujtaba Musawi Lari, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless his soul, he passed away a couple of years ago, a fantastic scholar, and I recommend all of us to read into his books. Sayyid Mujtaba Musawi Lari, he makes it very evident, and he speaks about this issue. He speaks how many people have a question, and we ask the question often, that we cannot fully understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so how is it that we can, believe in Him? How is it that we can believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And I got a reply. I remember a scholar answering this question, because there was a theist and it was a Christian and a Muslim dialogue. And what the theist or what the Christian asked the Muslim scholar is that, we base our religion off of the idea that we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with faith. Because the debate was very lopsided. So when this individual asked this question, you're making very rational arguments. So, what should we, why do we believe in this? You can't fully explain your Lord. And he said it's about the foundation. That if you're able to get a strong foundation and build a strong foundation for yourself, then you're able to jump, even though it may not be the absolute best, but it's a firm foundation, you'll be able to jump and leap off that ground. Whereas if you have very shaky foundation, if for example your foundation is quicksand, the more you try to jump and the higher you try to go, the more you're going to sink. In the same way, our progression and our purpose in this world is to understand the concept of Tawheed continuously, so that we are working on building that foundation of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And he continues, and you hear even another story where, there was a dialogue between, a Christian and a Muslim. And the scholar asked, the Christian, why is it that you believe in this and this and this? He said, no, you're too rational, you're too logical. He said, okay. So then the Christian asked him, he says, your wives, why is it that your Prophet married 4 wives? He said, you know what? That's a very good question, but it involves logic and rationale. So maybe we shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't answer the question. And maybe you should stop talking as well, because that's a sign of intelligence too. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created such a system where if we're able to understand these questions that are being asked today by all of us, that we must understand these questions, that we have to understand the foundation of. If we're able to understand these issues, brothers and sisters, that no matter what person comes towards us, no matter what questions are being asked, we're able to answer in the same way our imams were able to answer all of the questions in their time. Okay, so you see that Sayyid Mujtaba Musawi Lari, going back to the point at hand, he talks about how although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the limitless and we are the limited, man has this fitrah in him that he doesn't need the tools in order to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That even when you look at the concept of not believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, disbelieving, atheism, you see that this began in the 7th century. Even Paul Harvey in his dialogue in 1965, it's a very famous recording where he, in 1965, a Christian radio broadcaster, he made a monologue where he described what I would do or how I would conquer the world if I were the devil. So he starts off and he says, if I were the devil, I would put lewd literature into the world today so that our idea of having illegitimate relationships, it's easy. And I would have nations at war with themselves. And he makes one very important point. And that point is that I would convince man that man created God and not the other way around. I would convince man, if I were the devil, I would convince man that man created God instead of the other way around. And you see that, when you look at this, you see that how clear it is today, that today people are trying to disprove Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we'll get to this inshaAllah. But you see what? Sayyid Muhammad is saying what? That we need to understand that we're on a continuous understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That even another scholar came forth and he said that we as human beings, as we continue, and as we grow older, you'll see what will happen is that we will understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a different light as we evolve as individuals. If we ask ourselves and we think, the way that I saw the religion of Islam 5 years ago, is it the same way I perceive Islam today? The way I looked at Islam when I was, for example, 10 years ago, is it the same way that I perceive my Lord today? The same way I looked at this religion, is it the same way that I looked at it when I was a child? Obviously not. Because as you evolve, as you think more, as you contemplate, as you reflect, you go and you heighten yourself in the realms. Meaning that as you progress and you think and you reflect and you look upon the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you gain a higher and higher and higher ranking. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Shams says what? وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have created and perfected this soul. And we've taught it what's right, what's wrong. And we are the ones who will guide it. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the ones who promote good, they'll be successful. The ones who forbid evil, or the ones who promote evil, will be destructive to their own self. Not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala misguides, but because they're misguiding themselves. Hence the scholar says what? He says, as you grow in intellect, you'll grow in higher levels as well. Okay? And we have to keep this idea of understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more and more. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says numerous times in the Quran, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. We've given these signs as a sign to those who are contemplating, to those who are reflecting. Even a man comes to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farjum. A man comes to the Holy Prophet and he says, Ya Rasulullah, what's one of the best forms of worship? And the Holy Prophet, or one man comes to him and he says, what's an hour of worship, or what should I do as worship? So the Holy Prophet says to him that, oh man, 1 hour of reflection is greater than 70 years of dry worship. Because there's no use in me sitting and praying and praying and praying and sitting in a cave and just doing this the whole time. There's no use in it. Of me just sitting there and worshipping and worshipping and worshipping. There's even a narration of our beloved Imam Ja'far bin Muhammad al-Sadiq. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. And a man, there's a group that comes to him and they were performing Hajj. And they said, look at this man. We have this one person in our caravan. He must have his Hajj accepted for sure. Imam Sadiq says, why do you say this? They said, because all he does is he prays. All he does is he worships. So Imam Sadiq asked them, so who handles, his affairs? Who cooks for him? Who cleans for him? They say, we do that. But Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq says, then your Hajj is more valuable than his. Your Hajj is more valuable than his. What's the use of him shutting himself off in a corner and worshipping in this way? Rather, the true creatures, the true human beings who are in essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are progressing towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are those who are reflective, those who are thinking. That's why I say, brothers and sisters, one of the greatest mercies and one of the greatest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is after existence, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ability to have intellect. That this intellect is able to differentiate us from the ignorant, to differentiate the ignorant from the knowledgeable, from the one who has hikmah. So what I want to do here tonight is really see How is it that this ignorance, and how is it that the Holy Prophet and certain companions of our Imams worked against the ignorance of their time in order to bring their societies into the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What methods did they use? And how is it possible that we can apply it to our lives today? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajum. When you look at Imam al-Kazim alayhi salam, when you look at his life, you see that Imam al-Kazim, towards the end of his life, or towards the middle of his life, he's imprisoned by the Khalifa of his time, Harun al-Rashid, under false pretenses. So Harun al-Rashid, he takes Imam al-Kazim and he puts him in prison. The way he got him in prison was, he took one of the cousins of Imam al-Kazim alayhi salatu wasalam, and he said, I want you to come and say in my courtyard, in front of everybody, I want you to say that this Imam al-Kazim alayhi salam, this Musa ibn Ja'far, I want you to say that he's raising an army. Was Imam al-Kazim raising an army? No. So Ali ibn Ismail, he goes, and as he's leaving the house of Imam al-Kazim, Imam al-Kazim sees him leaving. When he sees him leaving, he says, Ali, where are you going? He says, I have to go to the city to repay some debts. Imam al-Kazim says, we will repay them for you. Stay, don't go. But he says, no, I want to go. So Imam al-Kazim replies to him, okay, no problem, but take this envelope with you. It was filled with 300 dinar. When Ali ibn Ismail was about to leave, he said, my Imam, my cousin, give me some advice. So Imam al-Kazim said, oh Ali, don't be the cause of destruction. Don't be the cause of the destruction of my family. Ali ibn Ismail goes. He goes to the courtyard of Harun al-Rashid. When he goes to the courtyard of Harun al-Rashid, he says, Musa ibn Ja'far, al-Kazim, he's raising an army. So Harun al-Rashid looks to his people. He says, is this enough? They said, yes. So from that point onwards, brothers and sisters, until the death of Imam al-Kazim alayhi salam, Imam al-Kazim was in prison. And when you look at the way he was treated, it's one of the worst ways. There's definitely, and no doubt, there is no day like Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, but there are no years like Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kazim alayhi salatu wasalam. Bahlul was a companion of Imam al-Kazim. And Bahlul is the person who has to take Harun al-Rashid and show him, use your aql, use your intelligence, think about where you're going. Bahlul goes, there's 3 companions who go to Imam al-Kazim alayhi salam when he's in prison. When they're visiting him, Imam al-Kazim, because there are guards all around, he can't tell them exactly instructions what to do. Because if he does, then, all of the guards will know and they'll tell Harun. So Imam al-Kazim says, Jim. One of the companions take the words to mean, for example, mountain. So he goes and lives in the mountains. Another companion believes that this means exile. So he goes and he moves away. Bahlul knew exactly what this meant. This meant junoon, insanity. So Bahlul knew that the way I'm going to show the Khalifa of his time his wretched ways is by acting crazy. Because even some narrations mention that Bahlul was a cousin of Harun al-Rashid. So you see, Bahlul is in this eternal struggle. He's fighting with Harun al-Rashid. Understand. Think about what you're doing. Reflect. Think there's going to be a day where you're going to be made answerable to your Lord. Bahlul goes one day to Harun al-Rashid, and they're rather humorous stories, brothers and sisters. But you see that he has this idea, I want to take this person and bring him from darkness into light. So Bahlul goes one time to Harun al-Rashid. And when he goes to his palace, he sees that the throne is empty. So he quickly goes on the throne and he starts jumping up and down and up and down. He's on the throne of the king and he starts jumping up and down. When the guards see this, they run and they start beating Bahlul. So Bahlul, he starts crying, and when Harun al-Rashid comes, he says, Bahlul, why are you crying? He says, your guards hit me. He said, why did they hit you? Because I was jumping up and down in your throne. He says, Bahlul, you're crying over this? You're crying because you got hit? He says, no, I'm not crying because these guards beat me. I'm crying because it hurt so bad. Even though I did this just for a few moments, I feel bad for you that you've been sitting on this throne for such a long time, that you've taken away the right of Muhammad and al-Muhammad. I can only imagine the punishment that's coming towards you on the day of judgment. I can only imagine, if you were to take the haqq of Muhammad al-Muhammad, look at the way these Umayyad and Abbasid Khulafa, we say radiyallahu an, even today to the point where we say Yazid radiyallahu an. There are some who have absolutely no aql. I even remember there was a school named Yazid ibn Muawiyah, School of Knowledge. We laugh, brothers and sisters, but honestly, wallahi al-azim, it hurts the heart. That many people now, even on the internet, they say what? Don't talk to the Shia. Don't talk to the Ja'faris, the Imamis, the Rawafid, the rejectors. Don't talk to them. Why? Look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the Quran. We say we follow Quran and Sunnah. You say you follow Quran and Sunnah. Bring the Quran on the table. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Bring the book. Bring the truth. Bring the proofs if you're truthful. Bring it to the table. Let's discuss it. Why is it that we use logic and rationale when it's coming to Tawheed? But the moment we want to discuss history, all of a sudden, no, you can't talk about this person this way. That Amir Muawiyah radiallahu an fought Amir Ali radiallahu an. And both of them, inshallah, will go to heaven. I even remember there was a scholar who was having a debate with a brother from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He approaches him and he says, I want to have this debate with you. So he says, okay, no problem. He says, you're a good scholar, so I want to help you. He says, okay. They start debating, and this man is proving him wrong one point after the other. So the scholar that's from the school of Ahlul Bayt, he gets a little bit fed up. So he says, the man says, I still want, and I know that I can beat you in this debate. So he says, you know what? I'm going to stick to my ways, you're going to stick to your ways. But you know what? I make a dua. I pray, inshallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises you on the day of judgment with your Imam Muawiyah. And inshallah, please make the dua that on the day of judgment, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises me with my Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This man is shocked now. This person is making dua that I should be raised with Muawiyah. Put your money where your mouth is if you truly want to back these. 60 years, brothers and sisters, 60 years Ali ibn Abi Talib's cursed from the pulpits of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. 60 years cursed from the pulpits of Banu Umayyah. Abu Dhar al-Ghafari, how did he die? How did Abu Dhar al-Ghafari die? Exiled by the second Khalifa. Even when you look at the way Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, the third Khalifa, and Imam Ali were put in a position of who's going to become the Khalifa. Omar says what? He says, I want to put these 6 into a room. It was 6 who were granted paradise. We have with our brothers of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they have this narration that, these are the 10 that are granted paradise. 6 of them were supposed to be granted paradise. For example, Talha, Zubair, you have Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, you have Imam Ali, Uthman, you have others. And you see that the way that they were supposed to be chosen is that you put these 6 in a room. And if one disagrees and 5 agree on one Khalifa, then kill the one. This is a person who's granted paradise, isn't it? Why is it? Where's our logic? If 2 disagree and 4 agree, kill the 2. And if 3 agree and the other 3 agree on one, then pick the 3 that Abdul Rahman ibn Auf is on. Because it's a game, brothers and sisters, it's a game. But see, when we don't analyze history, when we don't put these proofs on the table, when we don't analyze these situations logically and rationally, then you can have the circus that ends up happening. Then when events like Karbala happen, it's only a matter of time. That you see, Shaitan is just writing away on the script. That I want this, it's a Hollywood script. Even we mentioned a couple days ago, that the ones who first were to get bay'ah from Abu Abdullah al-Hussein were who? Were Walid ibn Utbah, the man who would lead Fajr prayers drunk. Another man, Marwan ibn al-Hakam. He was exiled by the Holy Prophet. His father exiled by the Holy Prophet. But when you don't have logic and rationale, when you throw this intellect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us out the window, then this is what happens. Karbala happens. That Abu Abdullah al-Hussein has to make statements like a man like me doesn't pay allegiance to a man like Yazid. Why? Because this is the individual who's the best amongst mankind. كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. Who are you? You're the best in the nation. You will promote good, you forbid evil, and you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even when you take Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, you see what? How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. That they make dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether they're sitting, whether they're standing, or whether they're on their sides, whether they're sleeping. We've taken these imams we've taken these imams for us, brothers and sisters, and we've made them into mantelpieces. That we come and we honor Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And we cry for 10 days, and then after that our actions go back to the same. And I speak to myself before anybody else, brothers and sisters. Shaykh al-Tusi said it best, that a man approached him one time and he said, do you think you're high because you sit on this pulpit? Shaykh al-Tusi replied that if there was a pulpit that showed my level of ignorance, it would reach all the way from here to the sky. So brothers and sisters, when I say this, I'm not saying this to hurt anyone. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to anyone. But we have to take hisab. We have to understand, if we're not keeping account for our own selves, then who will? That we have people like, we have imams like Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, that their sacrifice in Karbala, their passion, their willingness to just promote good. It's such a simple message. We've made it mechanical, brothers and sisters. You continue with Bahlul, and you see what? He's continuously working to, to convince Harun al-Rashid to come, use your intellect, think. You see that Bahlul, he comes to Harun al-Rashid, and when he comes to Harun al-Rashid this time, he says, I want the keys to your, I want your keys. So, Harun says to Bahlul, he says, why do you want my keys? He says, because, I just want to play with them. Harun says, no, it's better if you don't. He says, no, give me the keys. So Bahlul, he takes the keys. When he takes the keys, he, an hour later, his guards, Harun's guards, they come to Harun, and they say, Harun, you gave, these keys to Bahlul. He freed all of the prisoners in the city. So Harun, he's thinking to himself, now, we have a big issue. He says, where's Bahlul? He says, they're in the graveyard. He's in the graveyard? Okay, no problem. We'll go towards the graveyard. So he goes towards the graveyard and he sees Bahlul and he's crying. So he says, Bahlul, what have you done? Bahlul says, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. So Harun says, what are we going to do now? He says, what do you want me to do? I'll do anything. He says, then please get them in one place. Get all of these prisoners in one place so that they can, we can arrest them again. He says, Bahlul says, then we're in the perfect spot. He was sitting in a graveyard. Harun saying, why is this the perfect spot? He says, because there's going to be a day when every single person returns back here. And there were other advisors as well in the time of Bahlul who he needs to convince. Do you take a person like Fadl ibn Rabi', La'natullah alayh, another one who tortured Imam al-Kazim alayhi salatu wasalam. You see that Fadl, he makes a big mosque. Banu Umayyah, Banu Abbas, they like to make big mosques. Even Yazid and Muawiyah, they didn't like to have, small masjids, because for small palaces, because it scared them. They were very wide open. So you see that Bahlul, Fadl ibn Rabi' makes a very big mosque. When he makes this big mosque, it has a plaque at the door. For example, I think I was driving by and you see Sijni on the top right here when as you're driving by, you see something at the beginning. This mosque had a very big plaque right at the beginning. So Bahlul is standing right there when they're going to write Fadl ibn Rabi'ah's name. So he says, Fadl, who did you make the masjid for? He said, I made it for Allah. He said, so if you made it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then don't write your name on it. Fadl gets angry because he put all of his heart and all of his soul into this masjid. Fadl ibn Rabi', he gets angry. So he says, why not? Why can't I do this? He says, but didn't you do it for selflessness? He says, yes, I did it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he said, write Bahlul on the front of the masjid, the mosque of Bahlul. Because if you truly did it for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it won't matter whose name is written on the front of the mosque. Look, again, Bahlul is working to take these people out of their ignorance. Think, reflect. Think about that day when you're going to be made answerable. And that's why we need to look no further than the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. If we could recite one more salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One more salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. That the Holy Prophet was in a struggle to get people from darkness and take these people out of their ignorance, take the pre-Islamic Arabians out of their ignorance. And they had many diseases in their society too. That the Holy Prophet would come and give them so many messages. That I think to myself, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the 67th chapter, تَكَادُ تَمَيَّزُ مِنَ الْغَيْظِ كُلَّمَا أُلْقِيَ فِيهَا فَوْجٌ سَأَلَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا أَلَمْ يَأْتِيكُمْ نَذِيرٌ. Did a warner not come to you? And how on the day of judgment, these ones who promoted evil, how they will reply what? قَالُوا بَلَى قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ فَكَذَّبْنَا وَقُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, how on that day of judgment they will say, yes, you sent us a warner. Yes, you sent us Bashir and Nadhira. We refer to the Holy Prophet as what? As a guide, as a mercy. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. That we've sent you, O Muhammad, we've sent this messenger as a mercy to all of mankind. You see, the Holy Prophet had this struggle that he needs to work on in order to keep, in order to get people from going from their previous ignorant ways and bring them and show them. You see that there were many people who were affected by the Holy Prophet and his words. Especially one is Ammar ibn Yasir. Ammar ibn Yasir, When he converted to the religion of Islam, he walks into the door of his parents' house. He's still, an early convert. So as he walks into the door of his house, and many of us have heard the story, his shoulder brushes the idol that's sitting on the side. And it falls over and it breaks. So his parents, Yasir and Sumayya, they come down. And when they come down, they say, "Oh Yasir, why is it that you just killed God?" So Ammar ibn Yasir says to him, "My parents, did you just hear what you just said? You killed God? How can we kill God?" So then they say, "Who is it that you taught this? Who taught this to you?" He says that this man named Muhammad bin Abdullah, he claims to be the messenger of Allah, and he's brought this religion called Islam. He said, "What else has he taught you?" He says, and for example, Ammar bin Yasir starts reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, and he says, "He's taught us this." And he continues and he said, and they ask, "What else is it that he taught you?" And he mentions a verse of Surah Takwir that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا الْمَوْعُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. That on the day of judgment she will be asked and brought forth, for what sin was she killed in? Because these pre-Islamic Arabians, what they would do is they would bury their daughter alive, because there was an economic liability, because it would bring disgrace to the family if she got married to somebody who wasn't from a tribe that was a friend. If, for example, if a woman got married to a tribe that was a rival, it would be a disgrace on the family. So what they would do is they would bury their women alive. And I tell you, Wallahi al-Azim, we think we're a modern society. Look, it still happens today. And in that time, they only buried women. In that time, they only buried women. In the time of Fir'aun, when he gets a prophecy from the oracle, and he receives a prophecy that a male will come and overthrow his kingdom, they killed males. That time, in the time of Fir'aun, they're only killing males. In the time of the Holy Prophet, they're only killing females. MashaAllah, today you go, they're killing males and females. This is the same message, brothers and sisters. It's so simple. Look at the Quran, such a universal book, that this Quran, it can apply from the person in the time of Adam to the last person who will be standing on this earth. What a universal book. But we don't take heed of it. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We made this Quran easy for you to memorize. Which one of you? We've made this easy for you. Which one of you will take heed? But you see that the Holy Prophet, you see that in this society, we make it what? No, we're a modern society. Even the society today, we're a society of instant gratification. Everything, it's like a light goes, and like a bull, we go running after it. Even these apps today, if you want to have an illegitimate relationship, look at the magnificence of technology. A knife, it can cut an orange, but it can also stab somebody in the back. Could be used both ways. You look and, we have all of these, mashallah, we have all these fantastic apps like Tinder and, all of these. Look, it's made easy for us. Shaitan has said, what? I'm going to make all of this easy for you. I'm going to make all of it easy for you. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to make it easy for you to justify. Are you going to use your intellect to keep yourself away from this evil? Even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, for example, in the Quran, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. That this salah, it takes away from evil. It removes you away from evil. If you establish this principle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you. Hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even in Luqman says what? وَمَن يُسْلِمْ وَجْهَهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ فَقَدِ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى وَإِنَى اللَّهِ عَاقِبَةُ الْأُمُورِ. That the one who submits holistically to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he does good, he's a doer of good, that all of the matters at the end of the day are in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us, you made masjids? MashaAllah. And I'm not saying this to say anything against this masjid. This masjid has been very welcoming to me. But I'm saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, you made all of these masjids, but did you educate the next generation? That when you have the Richard Dawkins of the world today, you see that he's leading in academia today. And he writes books like the God Delusion as well. He's writing books like these. Why is it that we're not leading in academia? This person makes accusation one after another. There's an excellent debate or a dialogue between him and Mahdi Hassan, and I urge all of us to take a look at it. And Mahdi Hassan asked him a question. He says, when people do bad, is it because of religion? He says, yes, no doubt. He says, but what about all of the good? Can you reject all of the good that religion has brought about? He says, no, we have to forget about it. That's individually done. It's like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِ آيَاتُنَا وَاللَّا مُسْتَكْبِرًا كَأَن لَّمْ يَسْمَعْهَا كَأَنَّ فِي أُذُنَيْهِ وَقْرًا. You know, when it's told to them, when the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recited to them, they pretend like they have a deafness in their ear. They pretend like they did not hear what was just being said. They pretend. I even remember this science teacher. There was a scholar who walked up to a PhD in science, and he said, you know, the Quran in chapter 21, verse number 30, it speaks about water, and it speaks about how every single creation came from water. And the science professor, I remember the brother was telling me, the science professor walked away like he didn't hear anything. Like there's a deafness in their ear. That there's a deafness in their ear. And the Holy Prophet has to deal with this with many in his time. You take a person like, for example, you have a person like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And I swear if a psychologist really wants to examine, really wants to see an individual change the society around them, he doesn't have to study anybody else than the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. The Holy Prophet had this one companion named Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, what was different about him was that he was very short in stature. So when the battles, especially in early Islam where there were a few battles, he couldn't really help much. So the Holy Prophet said to him, Abdullah, Abdullah said, Ya Rasulullah, what can I do? So the Holy Prophet said, when you see an oppressor who will not change in his ways, I want you to take, your sword, if he's in his final moments, and finish him off. So Abdullah Mas'ud said, okay, no problem. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud one time is going during the battlefield. And when he's going during the battlefield, he sees Abu Jahl in his final moments. So he walks up to Abu Jahl, and as he's about to strike, Abu Jahl says, stop. He says, why do you want me to stop? Abu Jahl replied, and he said, at least let one of the bigger ones kill me. At least let one of the bigger ones kill me. The jahiliyyah in these individuals. You see another one. For example, you see Walid ibn Mughira. You see this man was another one. He was a poet in the time of the Holy Prophet. When the Holy Prophet revealed the Quran, you see he couldn't match it. The best poet, one of the best poets in Arabia, couldn't match it. So you see what happens is that Walid ibn Mughira, when the Quran is revealed, he goes against, and he's an enemy and an open enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That one day, Walid ibn Mughira, he has a nail falls over while he's in his house, and it stabs and pierces his foot in such a way that it goes through the wood. So when it goes through, his foot is stuck to the ground. And as he's about to put his head down to pick it up or to remove the nail, there's a servant who's very close to him in his house, and she's cleaning. She's cleaning and she's cleaning. She took a very long time at that point. But he said, I can't lower my head, because if I do that, then my head will be lower than hers. Walid ibn Mughira, he did this. So he waits until she leaves, and then he pulls the nail out. To the extent that when he pulled the nail out, it was too late because his foot was already infected. Walid ibn Mughira died in this way. You like another person, like Abu Lahab. La'natullah alayh. You see Abu Lahab, and he's doing what? You see one time that the way he died, nobody even wanted to bury him. Because he got a disease so bad, brothers and sisters, that his children even, they took rocks because they didn't want to get infected, and they would throw it at Abu Lahab to bury him, eventually until he was buried. This is the ignorance that the Holy Prophet had to deal with. Brothers and sisters, are we not going to understand? Are we not going to contemplate? Are we not going to reflect? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Taha makes an excellent point where He says, مِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ وَمِنْهَا نُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O insan, مِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ, we created you from this dust. You will go back to this dust, and we will again raise you from this dust. مِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ وَمِنْهَا نُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى. Ask yourself this question, brothers and sisters. We've been doing sujood, however long we've been alive. We've been doing sujood. And there's something unique about the prayer in the words of Islam. And that, what's unique about that is that when you make sujood, or whenever you have a unit of prayer, if you go into sujood, it will always consist of two. Meaning you come back up, and then you go back into sujood. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made sujood, made two, was because of this verse of Quran. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you came from earth, you're going back to earth. Even the Holy Prophet was asked, what's the distance between life? He said, the distance between life is 2 sujoods. If we're not able to answer fundamental questions like this, if we're not able to reflect and contemplate and think, then brothers and sisters, what's our value? That when events like Karbala happen, it's just a moment of time. You take a man like Muslim ibn Aqil. You take a man like Muslim ibn Aqil and you compare him to the people in his time that Muslim ibn Aqil, when he's going, he has 30,000 people following him. When he reaches Kufa, he has 30,000 people following him. And Ibn Ziyad was sent to the city by Yazid. Ibn Ziyad was become Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan told his son Yazid, he said, I want you to make sure that Ibn Ziyad, if you're ever in trouble and you need to conquer a city, make sure you send Ibn Ziyad, because he's a butcher, he's a murderer, he's a master manipulator. Ibn Ziyad, he's sent by Yazid to Kufa. When he's sent to Kufa, he comes in such a way that he wraps a black cloth around his face. When he wraps a black cloth around his face, he arrives in the city, and because he put the black cloth around his face, everybody's thinking it's Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Everyone's thinking it's Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So when he takes it off, people realize that this is the butcher, Ibn Ziyad. That Ibn Ziyad now goes in the palace, and when he goes in the palace, Muslim ibn Aqil, he's saying what? He says, let's revolt right now. Ibn Ziyad's palace wasn't even fortified at this point. But the people, there was complacency. That even though there were 30,000 followers, when Ibn Ziyad starts sending his spies after Muslim ibn Aqil, people start leaving. That Ibn Ziyad, he tells the people, and he sends out through his messengers and his news and through his media systems, that he says that anyone who's caught supporting Muslim ibn Aqil will be butchered, will be killed. That Muslim ibn Aqil is leading prayers, and when he reaches the mosque, there's only 18 in the hall with him, brothers and sisters. Can you imagine the loneliness of Muslim? That I'm going to uphold the principles. I'm going to uphold and think and reflect. And I'm going to uphold the principles of my grandfather, or rather of the Holy Prophet. And I'm going to defend my brother, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein, you refer to Muslim ibn Aqil as his brother. Muslim ibn Aqil, when he reaches the masjid, there's only 18 with him. As he finishes Maghrib prayers, there's even less. When he finishes for example, his Isha prayers, there's only 3 or 4. As he's leaving the masjid, there's only 1. And as Muslim ibn Aqil starts to walk the halls and starts to walk around the roads of Kufa, Muslim ibn Aqil is a stranger in this land. There's nobody with him. And you see Muslim ibn Aqil, he starts walking down these roads, he starts going through these roads, and you see that he's tired at this point. No one will let him in. Because people like Hani ibn Urwa and Mukhtar, these people are either in prison, or Ibn Ziyad said, he sent his spy, and he said that any of these, if they're caught with Muslim ibn Aqil, look for him. I want you to look for Muslim ibn Aqil. So Muslim couldn't stay with any of these companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That Muslim ibn Aqil now stops at a staircase of a lady named Taw'a. When he stops at the staircase and he stops at the stairs of the house of this lady, you see that the lady comes out. And when she comes out, she says, can I help you? He says, may I please, the lady says it's not better or it's not good for a man to be sitting in front of the steps of a house of a woman. So he says, oh lady, I have nowhere else to go. I have nowhere else to go. She says, are you a stranger in this land? He says, yes, I'm a stranger in this land. She says, what's your name? He says, Muslim. Muslim son of who? Muslim son of Aqil, son of Abu Talib. She says, you're Muslim? You're the cousin of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? You're here? There's no one else to take you in? He says, there's no one to take me. So the lady says, okay Muslim, you can stay in my house. But if you stay, you have to stay in this room, because my son, if he comes home, he's a follower of Yazid and a follower of Ibn Ziyad, because he's a drunk. She says that what? She says that if he comes, you have to make sure you conceal yourself. So Muslim ibn Aqil, even though she gives him food, even though she gives him water, he doesn't drink. In the night, he's up praying, he's up thinking, he's up reflecting, contemplating. And you see that in the morning that this drunken son comes home and he finds out that Muslim ibn Aqil is in the house and he wants to claim the reward. So he goes to Ibn Ziyad and he tells the people of Ibn Ziyad, he tells them, Muslim is in this house. So these people, they send their army of 500 soldiers, brothers and sisters. And Muslim ibn Aqil at that point is fighting. He's fighting the whole afternoon. And Muslim ibn Aqil was a ferocious warrior. The narrations mention that he killed nearly 100 on that day. That Muslim ibn Aqil, he's killing one after the other. And you see that they send news to Ibn Ziyad and they say, send another army. To do what? To kill the son of Aqil. He says, he's gone through the army? Yes, he's gone through the army. that they finally, the way they get Muslim ibn Aqil is they tell him that we won't kill you. So Muslim ibn Aqil obliges and he goes with them. When he goes with them, he's brought in front of Ibn Ziyad. And when he's brought in front of Ibn Ziyad, he looks to Ibn Ziyad and Ibn Ziyad says, you're in your final moments now. So Muslim ibn Aqil says to him, then take my wasiyah. He says, what is it? He says, number one, don't tell my brother Abu Abdullah al-Hussein not to come to the land of Kufa. That the people have betrayed him. That if he comes, the entire family will be massacred. Muslim ibn Aqil, he makes this. Ibn Ziyad says no. He says, number two, pay my debts. One of the soldiers said, no, we're not going to pay his debts. Ibn Ziyad says, no, pay his debts, it's okay. Then the third is, he says, please bring me a cup of water. And when Ibn Ziyad brings, he says, bring from the bowl of the dogs or the ducks and give him the water in this way. That Muslim ibn Aqil, when he takes that bowl, as he's going to drink, his blood falls into the bowl. And he realized that this is a sacrifice that I must make for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That Muslim ibn Aqil is taken to the top of a roof. And as he's taken to the top of a roof, there's only one person he can remember. And that's his master, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Even on the day of Karbala, brothers and sisters, there were many who were from the children of Aqil who were killed. You see, Muhammad ibn Muslim, that he's fighting, he's the son of Muslim ibn Aqil. He's fighting valiantly and valiantly. He's telling all of the people, he's telling his family members, fight. This is the last day you have to struggle. Then Muslim ibn Aqil, his son Muhammad, is hit eventually and he falls to the ground. And there's even one narration of another child of the family of Aqil, that he comes out of the tent and he comes out very confused. And when he comes out confused, this young boy, you see that there's a fighter who's coming by and he strikes even this little boy to where he falls and he dies to his martyrdom. That Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is walking by on the 10th of Muharram, and he's walking by and he says, oh children of Aqil, he stops by the tent. He says, why is it that I call you but you don't reply me? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتنا حسين.